is Joel Bartsch, and I'm currently president of the Houston Museum of Natural Science. But I've worked here since the early 80s, and I was first a security guard here back in the early 80s, and I've had a bunch of different jobs along the way. But even before being a security guard here, I hung out here a lot as a kid with my brother. We actually knew about the museum and came to the museum, and it wasn't even on this piece of property. It was in a little shack over at the zoo. So I've been involved with this museum my entire life. Like I said, came here a lot when I was a kid. My parents used to drop us off. We'd spend Saturdays here. We'd come every Friday for lecture series. So this museum is sort of in with and under the fabric that makes me up. I mean, it is a huge part of my life and always has been. Well, all my life I've been enamored with minerals and crystals and gems. And by the time I was 8 or 9 or 10 years old, not to sound too arrogant, but my mineral collection was actually better than the museum's mineral collection. So I would come here as a kid and look at the collection, and it was like, it's not bad. It could be improved. But in the early 80s, the museum made a commitment to build the world's finest mineral collection, and they bought for several $1 million, which is unheard of amount of money at the time, one of the finest collections in the world. So overnight, the museum transformed its mineralogical holdings into one of the finest in the world, and of course that got my attention. Being a passionate mineral collector and a huge fan of this museum, I came down here and said, you know what, there's got to be a job here for me somehow. And I was expecting to either be made curator or president right on the spot, but unfortunately the only job opportunity that I qualified for was security guard. Every step of the way, whether it was security guard, curator, working in the development department, or being president of the museum, there's always some part of my inner being that's sort of been touched and hooked by the opportunity to work at the Museum of Natural Science. The museum has undergone thousands of changes in the last several decades, but probably the most evident one, and perhaps the most compelling one, is just the order of magnitude. Before, where we in the 60s and 70s, we might have reached a couple hundred school kids a year. Now we reach 500,000 school kids a year. Before, we were lucky if we had 50,000 visitors a year. Now we have 2 or 3 billion visitors a year. So I think we've always been focused on the core mission of science education. But now, as the museum has grown and the city of Houston has grown and the world has gotten smaller, we really have grown in leaps and bounds by several orders of magnitude. That's probably the most significant change. And I like to believe that even though we've grown in size and we've grown in number of employees and we've grown in the huge number of visitors and school kids, that we really have never lost our way by focusing primarily on our central core mission, which is science education and giving people a place where they can come to better understand the beauty and awe of the natural world. While we've been very, very successful in the last few years, and certainly the last couple decades, we're at a point now where we're almost so successful that we're out of space. So looking forward into the future, we believe that we're going to continue to have huge numbers of visitors, that we're going to be able to engage people, entertain them, educate them. But in order to do so more efficiently and probably more comfortably for them, we do need to increase the size of the building. So going forward, I would expect that we would still continue the same aggressive temporary exhibitions program, still try to broaden our community outreach, especially in areas of education, as much as possible. The more you understand about nature, the more you understand and appreciate how science works, the better informed you are as a community, and you can make clearer, more reasonable decisions about the path forward.